Hello and welcome to Track Talk, brought to you by William Hill with myself, Kate Tracey, James Mackie, and our special guest this week, Will Smith, to look ahead, well, to discuss really some of the main talking points that have been in the horse racing news this week. And lads, we're going to kickstart with, funnily enough, the whip. Again, as James put in brackets on the brief for this, because Sean Quinlan spoke so passionately this week on Sky Sports Racing about how many days he would have been banned for with these new sick rules. So, Will, a hugely controversial subject. Has been for a while now, so your thoughts?
Yeah, it has. Yeah. And look, it's always easy to throw mud at authorities and management, corporate environments, etc., when people have to make tough decisions about things and have to lay plans out. But I think when you have someone of the personality and the standing and, the qualities of Sean Quinlan putting out something which was clearly very emotional, clearly very a passionate plea almost, then you have to sit up and take notice, don't you? The fact that, he is seeing fit to come out publicly and express these worries that he has. It's not just him, he has said pretty much everyone within the weighing room is very, very worried. And the whole bedding in period that they've got obviously runs up into perhaps the biggest 4 days of sport that we have within the horse racing world, don't we, at Cheltenham? So, in terms of publicity, it could all go pretty drastically the wrong way, which would be terrible, wouldn't it? I mean, I think with regards to the whip, it's that there is an important issue there in that welfare is obviously such an important part of the sport, but I don't think you need to bow to extremism, which is the same in any walk of life, isn't it? You can't let yourself bow to extremism, and I feel that might be where things are going down and the path that it is moving towards, which would be a bad way. And clearly practitioners of the sport who've been doing it for 20-25 years had no issues whatsoever. No one has ever come up to them and said, what you're doing is terrible, it's cruel, it's barbaric, etc. They've been at the top level of their sport, the likes of Sean Quinlan, Brian Hughes, Sam Twiston-Davies has been vocal about it. I think Sean Bowen has. I think you've got to take note, haven't you, when guys like that are essentially pleading to the authorities to take another view.
And James, Will just made the point there about the timing of this as well, obviously leading into the big spring festivals. I mean, what can possibly be done before these meetings go ahead?
Well, the problem you could find is, and I know I'm being a bit drastic with what I say here, but you could end up with only Irish riders at the festival, because the amount of bans they're going to potentially be handing out to British riders could absolutely rip apart the Cheltenham Festival if it was to stand. Like Sean Quinlan was saying, and like Will said, he was very emotive, was he, when he was coming across. The stewards have said to him, he'd have picked up, 51 days worth of bans. That is ridiculous. And for someone who's been riding for 20 plus years in the same style to then go and change it, I think Will's right. It's very extreme. And I know it might be drastic what I'm saying there about only the Irish could be riding, but it could come to that, because I think there's a point where you have to, yes, they've had a look at it, but they've looked at it in the wrong way. I think they need to, the BHA need to be talking to jockeys, figures in the sport, ex-jockeys. Talks need to be ongoing, because this can't really happen, can it? I think it's a backward step more than a step in the right direction for me.
Yep. Now, Willie Mullins did bring up 4,000 winners with the success of Brawn at Fairyhouse on Saturday. Now, James, we know that Willie Mullins, he is a master of close ups and the master of national hunt racing, pretty much in general. So just how big of an achievement was that?
Yeah, personally for me, I think he's the greatest trainer we've ever seen. And I don't just want to say that I'm recency biased, but in my lifetime within racing, he is just absolutely superb in every department. He knows what he's good at. He knows what he's maybe not so good at, but the horses that he has had have obviously helped him throughout his career. Like when I was looking through, and just to pick out a few, because I could be here all day, Fahim, Duvan, Vitor, Min, Gavega, Benitez Doe, Annie Power, like these are great horses. But look at the horses that are coming through now. Appreciate It, Galloping de Champs, Sir Gerhard, Facile Vega. I don't see where it will ever stop with him until he wants to pack it in, because the 4,000 winners for any trainer is remarkable, but I think that he could reach even 5,000, because he is absolutely superb. I think he's going to have probably maybe 11, 12 winners at the festival. I wouldn't be surprised. He's a brilliant trainer. He's brilliant in all departments, especially with his hurdlers, isn't he? And long may it continue, because he's been absolutely brilliant for the sport over the years.
And Will, in your opinion, just what makes him so good and so much better than the vast majority?
Yeah, I mean, how long have you got? think that the main thing that a lot of people try and crab the current state of racing with is that, you know, it's a monopoly for the Mullins and the Elliots, etc., etc. But there is a reason that Willie Mullins has got that monopoly, because 30, 35, 40 years ago, he would have set out with a smaller, you know, amount of decent horses and as smaller resources as any other person setting out in training. Yes, obviously he comes from a certain stock and tradition and history, but that's not a guarantee by any stretch. So it's from that point to where he is now. Every day that has gone by, he has strived to be as good as he can be with everything. He has strived to improve. He has strived to get the right people around him to make the right decisions. And just, there will be no stone left unturned, will there? And people forget about all of that. You know, when you just say 4,000 winners, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, what a man, what a great trainer. But it's that hard work to get to that point, which is the astounding aspect to it. And that will be what a lot of people do forget. And that's what makes him, you know, absolutely number one. And I completely echo James's sentiments there, in that certainly in my lifetime, you know, I'm sure there are trainers before my lifetime that will have been as huge as Willie Mullins, but he is head and shoulders ahead of anyone else that I have seen in my lifetime. And I'm sure we're probably not alone in that.
No. And finally, we saw the Grade 3 Limestone Lad Hurdle at Naas on Sunday, won by Echoes in Rain. But the second favourite was Bob Olinger, who continues just to look a shadow of his former self. Again, just not looking comfortable. So, Will, I mean, where are we with Bob Olinger now? And I mean, what do you do with him?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because, you'll know as well as anyone, Kate, within a training yard and horses themselves, they can't tell you what is ailing them or what is affecting them. There is clearly something that is not the same with Bob Olinger compared to the animal that we saw 18, 24 months ago. Now, whatever reason that may well be, we don't know. Henry de Bromhead will probably have a decent idea, but still might not fully know, because, he's been campaigning the horse in a manner that would hope that he's going to recapture some of his past glories. And he's running fine. He's running fine, but that's all he is running, just fine. Middle of the road, Grade 2, Grade 3 fair. Whereas, like I said, go back 2 seasons ago and he looked spectacular, didn't he? He looked like the next superstar. So it's a tricky one, because if you had a horse who won a novice hurdle and got rated 120, 130, and then had a season in the doldrums, went back down to 100, popped up again in a 0 to 105 handicap, no one would be saying, oh, let's retire him, or he's gone at the game, etc. It's just because of the profile of him that there is this, the sort of all the angles that you could possibly throw at it, and who's to say what they should do with it. Henry de Bromhead will have the best idea, the owners will have the best idea, and you just hope that at some stage he can show that spark again.
James, not to take away from the winner, of course, who we know is very talented when she puts it all together, and she's kind of less crazy than she used to be. But what did you make of the race? And obviously with Bob Olinger back in third.
It's a real tough one for me with Bob Olinger, because I absolutely adore this horse. And when I saw him obviously when he won the Ballymore, I think a lot of people did off the back of that. And I thought like many people would, that this was a superstar to stay. I think when he went over fences, he obviously didn't probably jump the same as he did. He didn't show the same charisma for the game for me. And it's like the warning bells that have started to come on. And obviously he went to the festival. Yeah, he won, but he shouldn't have won, because Galloping de Champs had a freak fall. But this season, obviously, he's come back over hurdles, and I was thinking, brilliant. That's exactly what I wanted to happen. And he's been the worst we've ever seen him. When a horse starts to go down this path, and like Will was saying, if it was a horse that was rated 130, 135, you'd say, you know what, could probably get back to that mark. We'll shove him in a handicap. This is Bob Olinger, rated 160, 161 as a chaser, 159 as a hurdler. He was a superstar, a Grade 1 winning superstar that now wouldn't look to win a Grade 3, or wouldn't even, you put him in a handicap, he's marked dropping, I wouldn't think he'd go and win that. I don't think he'll be far away from retirement personally, unless things rapidly change. It's sad to see, because I don't want any horse to retire. You always want him to be at the top of their game, but he looks so unenthusiastic for racing. It's going to take an absolute master job from Henry de Bromhead to get him back anywhere near where he was, because he just looks a completely horse that's gone at the game for me.
Yeah, exactly. So we hope not, but that may well be the case. We're just gonna have to wait and see for Bob Olinger, but he was obviously worth discussing where he was at the minute. So not to finish on a downer, we hope for the best for him, but that has been this week's Track Talk, brought to you by William Hill. Big thank you to James and to Will for their hard work staying around with me for this. Now, we will be back with this show next week with more topics to discuss.